What's up, board game people? This is a rough one. What do you get when you cross a beloved IP, the heritage of a beloved game, and a corporation with more money than they know what to do with? Well, I doubt the answer is what you'd expect from a Kickstarter campaign you were excited about. First, I don't get any money from game companies for making my videos. I make them to help myself and others make educated choices when backing campaigns in today's turbulent climate. If I get something wrong or we disagree about something, let me know civilly in the comments and I'd be glad to chat. As the war rages on, House Harkonnen must dominate Arrakis and keep the spice flowing, lest they lose the support of the great powers of the Imperium. Meanwhile, the young Atreides, leader turned messiah, Paul Muad'Dib, must wrestle with his prescient visions and find his path between the fate of Arrakis, the inexorable Jihad, and the destiny of the Kwisatz Haderach. Dune War for Arrakis is an asymmetrical area control game in which the House Harkonnen, backed by the Emperor, must fight to keep the spice flowing, as it's the lifeblood of the Empire. They'll be facing off against the betrayed House Atreides, backed by the Fremen, fighting to reclaim their right to the planet and its powerful resource. The Harkonnen are working towards a visible goal of meeting the demands of the Emperor for spice and asserting their dominance over the Fremen by seeking out and destroying their sieges scattered around the map, while the Atreides and the Fremen have hidden goals they must achieve for victory. The Harkonnen are better equipped and outnumber the Atreides, but once the Atreides are able to employ their House Atomics, blast their way through the plateaus, they're able to bring the full might of the Fremen and their sandworms down on the Harkonnen and Imperial troops. This game comes with 129 miniatures, plus whatever few are offered as stretch goals. Let's look at the pledge level. Yes, you heard that right, there's only one at this time. For $110, you get the Harvester Pledge, which gets you the core box and all applicable rewards. Simple enough. Now for what everyone gets excited about, the FOMO makers, the stretch goals. Several stretch goals have already been unlocked. While the list might look like it's adding a ton to the game, so far they've only added 6 new miniatures to the game. The other goals have unlocked alternate sculpts for already existing miniatures. These do not add to the total miniature count. As for add-ons, there are none yet. Okay, let's look at shipping then. There's a chart showing the loose shipping estimates towards the bottom of the page. These are just estimates though, and shipping will be calculated in the Pledge Manager. VAT will also be charged in the Pledge Manager. And, it isn't mentioned here, but taxes for US residents for some states will be charged in the Pledge Manager as well. It's the law, they just neglect to mention it. So let's get to my thoughts on this game and project. As you can imagine, these may be a bit colorful, but I'm trying my best to be objective. I'm a consumer and I'm looking at this project with a consumer's eyes. First, let's get the big one out of the way. Let's talk value for all this plastic and cardboard they're slinging at you. At first, I'd say $110 is absolutely worth it for this game and 120 plus miniatures. But that neglects to tell the whole story. $110 is just your pledge amount. Let's look at that shipping. I'm going to look at the US because that's where I'm from and I can make a reasonable guess at the cost and taxes. For the continental US, shipping could be as low as $48 and as high as $58. Where I live in the central US, things coming from one coast or another are a bit more expensive, so let's say $55. That's half the cost of the game. Then let's add my state's sales tax to that. To get the game on Kickstarter and have it shipped to me comes out to $178 and some change. That's significantly higher than the $110 pledge. I've seen friends in the EU and UK do the same calculations and come up with over $200 in almost every case. In total, their shipping and taxes come out to $78 for me, for one box. To put that in perspective, I paid $110 shipping for my Chronicles of Drunagor, Apocalypse, all in, everything you could buy. That's a stack of heavy boxes about 1.5 times the size of me. And COD was calculating shipping during the worst of the shipping crisis. These shipping prices are horrible across the board, and they will not get better. In fact, at CMON, they'll likely increase. But it's a big pile of plastic with some of the shiny Kickstarter exclusives. Yes, it is. And those exclusives will be a bit more expensive when they are no longer exclusive and being sold by any Asmodee partner who wants to stock them. CMON has done this over and over with most of their Kickstarter games. Okay, so let's take a deep breath And let's look at the game itself. This is a board game channel. As for the game and its designers, it would be a disservice to put CMON's business practices on their shoulders. This is a game that I was extremely excited to see coming out. I love Dune, and I'd love to see more Dune games around. The game itself is a great homage to War of the Rings, if perhaps a little lighter in complexity. The battle plan should be a great way to tell the story of the battle you'll be playing out, while keeping everyone on their toes and swinging the battle one way or another when they're played. There are only 64 battle plan cards to be played, though, and with that small of a deck, you're likely going to be able to predict and prepare for certain battle plans ahead of time. I also like the possibilities of using the House Atomics to change the layout of the map and the flow of battle. War of the Ring did such a great job building towards an epic ending battle, and I can see that being the case here again. The miniatures themselves are nice for the usual CMON fare of late. The named characters are all decent sculpts with powerful poses, but as with most CMON games, the mass of the miniatures included are repeated sculpts. 90 or more of the included miniatures represent 11 different units, and of those, 6 will have 2 poses each. That doesn't make for a lot of variety. Sadly, many of the stretch roll sculpts are stale and bland poses that you can find repeated across many different games in their lines. They're also making miniatures smaller than their typical Zombicide scale, they say to save on shipping. They've gone from 32mm to 28mm. While this doesn't seem like much, this means the miniatures are harder to paint and the details are much harder to distinguish. Now, that 28mm scale is reserved for the human figures only. The worms are tiny compared to the army-eating worms of the Dune universe. Even the maker is just a hair bigger than the regular worms. Perhaps these should be used for bait to catch bigger worms. The vehicles are also wildly out of scale, being as big as the human minis or smaller. Table presence here is all over the place, but I don't think plopping down a worm in front of a Harkonnen army is going to strike fear in your opponent quite like it really should. The choice to come with an 8-day campaign is all marketing. Here, they don't want to give anyone a second chance to change their mind. This is a whirlwind campaign. Get in, get out, profit. It costs them less to run a short campaign, and it gives less time for questions to be asked of them. I saw one question in the comments that stood out to me. Someone asked if there will be any live gameplay shown of the game. The answer to that was that in such a short campaign, they wouldn't have a chance. The truth is that it's much cheaper and more easily controlled to have a single influencer show the game digitally than to send demo copies into the wild and take the chance that someone actually takes a hard look at or a hard stance on the game. Speaking of the comments, as you really start digging, you'll see multiple examples of Kickstarter's new comment censorship policy being applied. These are comments marked as under review or against community standards. CMON has blocked several people for asking too pointed of questions about their business practices and some of their more recent shady side deals. I've never seen so many people canceling pledges while looking through the comments. Overall, I think this might have been an awesome Kickstarter if it was in the hands of a different publisher. Here we are seeing more of the same from CMON that will do a disservice to what might have otherwise been a lovely game. Please think for yourself on this one. Think with your head, not with your FOMO. For me, I won't be backing this one on Kickstarter. If it gets good reviews, I'll pick it up for far under their ridiculous MSRP of $140, likely for less than the $110 core pledge price. I will pay zero shipping, and I'll spend that money on other amazing games, and perhaps some of those super duper exclusive minis from this campaign. You do you, though. So that's it. A little heavier on the back end than I'd prefer, but sometimes it ends up like this. We'll be back soon with a weekly news video and our month in review. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks to everyone watching and commenting. Remember, we're all human, keep it civil, and educate yourself. Have a good one and play something fun tonight.